I need coffee at this time of night.
No crumpets?
Crumpets are awesome.
The fuck is a crumpet?
We can't get in this conversation. I've had this conversation far too many times. Crumpets, biscuits, crisps, fries. It's all bullshit.
You can't knock crumpets until you've tried them. Crumpets are fucking awesome.
It's like a falafel. I don't know what the fuck that
No,
is.
it's not. It's nothing like a falafel.
No, I'm just saying in the same jump.
All right.
Same category for me. Weird ass food, I don't know what it is.
We were just having a conversation about potato and potato.
See, I know what those are.
Yeah.
I'm pretty well versed on those.
Well, I know what potatoes is, but I ain't never heard of a fucking potato before.
That's the Twilight's own version of the potato.
Well, Dan put a picture on Twitter.
Special needs potato.
said doggy. And I said, boy, that dog looks British. And he says, no, he's English. And I said, potato. And he says, who the hell says potato? And I said, some of you posh, quote-unquote, English people.
He said in English, no, he's British. Is that the same shit?
Never mind.
Not quite, no.
Is that like the whole, like, Asian and Oriental thing? I don't know, that fucking blows my mind, too.
Maybe.
I just don't use it.
England's part of Britain.
So it's the same thing, right?
It's
What else is part of Britain?
Ireland, Scotland, and Wales.
So
Do you really want to claim those as part of England or Britain?
Well, they're not part of England. They're
part of Britain.
Part of Great Britain.
Right.
That's why I say I'm English. I'm distancing myself from Scotland, Ireland, and Wales.
Okay, I get it.
We've got the Irish having fights about, well, basically which version of Christianity is right. The Scottish who wear skirts and eat haggis, and the Welsh who shag sheep. There's no reason why it shouldn't want to be any.
This is going to be the longest outtake ever.
Draw your sword, knock your arrows, and ready your spellbook. It's time for another episode of The Gamesmen. What role will you play?
Guys, gals, and guildies, welcome to episode 69 of The Gamesmen. This is the show for February the 9th, 2012. I am Steve Conger, also known as JSS Lyfeliek, on basically every gaming platform imaginable, and tonight we're bringing you a lot of talk, we're bringing you a special guest, maybe a couple voices you haven't heard in a while. So, with me, as always, who seems to be the constant as of late, Dan Knappman. Hardlydan, what's up?
Hey man, how you doing?
Pretty good. What's going on?
Not much. Playing some games.
Yeah. I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I have been too. Oh man, I can't stop, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, Yuri List, Mr. Xcalybr 713. What is up?
What is down?
I think you said that the last time you were on here.
Nice. I'm going for consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's working his way through the Konami code.
Up, down. Left, anyway, and bringing you a...
Spoiled the surprise now, did you? Thanks a lot, buddy.
Cut him off at the pass. Also, special guest for this evening, Mr. Greg DeLacy, MurphysLaw. How are you, sir?
I am good. Just playing games, skipping work. You know, the usual.
been trying to get you on for a while now, but things just haven't worked out the way that I wanted them to.
They never do.
Yeah, I know. So tonight, this is the lineup. First, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're playing, what's going on in our gaming lives. We're going to bring a little topic to the table in the middle, which we've brought Greg in for, and he's more than happy to weigh in on this.
I see dead people.
What killed the JRPG, if it is indeed dead, but we'll determine that in a little bit. And then we're going to kind of wrap up with a spoiler section on Bastion. Which, I'm me late to the party, but I can't believe how great that game was, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. So let's just get right into what we're playing. So, Greg, what's new in your gaming life, as it were?
Well, there's lots that's kind of like crept in, but one thing in particular that I wanted to kind of reach out and talk about was Starhawk. Threw on the beta last week and gave it a few different goes. I really was hyped for Starhawk, just like I was kind of hyped way back when with Warhawk, and I found myself disappointed kind of once again. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it could really all come back to just PS3 controls, although this time around I'm using a different controller. It's more akin to an Xbox 360 controller, so I honestly don't think it's the controller so much as it's just the control of the game. I mean, it's smooth enough. I think Starhawk has a lot of potential to be a kind of like a niche success, similar to kind of how MAG was. It had that big hit when it first launched out, and then it kind of dwindled off, but they had that rabid fan base that stuck to it. And same thing, I guess, with Warhawk. But I found the gameplay just a little chaotic. And it came kind of in waves. When you were playing a capture the flag kind of game mode, it was definitely fast and furious. You have the ability, of course, to kind of have these almost tower defense-like abilities where as you earn points through the game, you'll be able to create actual defensive structures or vehicle respawns for a Jeep or an actual Warhawk. And you can also create walls and ammo bunkers and things like that. And what you find is, especially early on in territory kind of games, people just start creating random stuff everywhere. And you just start seeing these defensive structures just dropping from the sky. And it just makes for a bit of a chaotic experience. I mean, I really don't know how else to describe it. It probably didn't help that there really is no tutorial in the beta, so you're just kind of thrown to the wolves and you have to figure it out. But I was in there, and at one point I literally got surrounded because I was near the flag, and somebody built 4 walls around the flag. And I was boxed in. I sat for a good 15 minutes in the beta just staring at walls, waiting for the enemy to blow up a wall so I could get out of the stupid box. So things like that didn't exactly, make the game really shine in my eyes. But, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with it per se. The shooting all feels serviceable. Graphically, it almost kind of has, in a sense, kind of a Halo vibe in that it's very vibrant. Which I wasn't quite expecting, but they definitely kind of went for a more colorful look to the world. But it just kind of feels short of some of the other more popular shooters. Like I can't say I would be wanting to play this more than Battlefield 3 or say a Gears of War 3 or even Modern Warfare 3. I mean, those shooters just are more competent in what they do than what this seems to be doing so far.
Does it live up to the Firefly billing that we sort of built up? Remember when we first saw this, when it was first announced, and you and I were geeking out over the possibility of a multiplayer Firefly?
Well, it's really hard to say at this point because the multiplayer beta, it just shows you the multiplayer, and the multiplayer feels nothing like Firefly. I'll say that. But certainly the single player absolutely could play like Firefly. I mean, you definitely get that vibe when you first fire it up and you see the character, and I'm assuming it's the main character, kind of stands up and he has, the Western holster, and he's kind of got the chaps and the cowboy shirt, so he's got that vibe going. But you don't get that feeling playing the multiplayer because it doesn't have that kind of, it feels like a sci-fi generic shooter.
I gotta admit that I tried to play this before we started recording. I have it downloaded and everything, but I didn't have a chance. So, I mean, I don't know, how do they fix some of the issues in the beta then?
Well,
I mean, do they put it like, I don't know, like, do they put turret placement and things like that up for a vote?
No, I mean, I don't know that there's really a way to fix it. I mean, in those kind of games, you're going to have that kind of chaos. I don't know there's really a way to change that without really changing the entire gameplay around drastically. I think it really is going to be more kind of, it's your taste in game that's really going to come down to it. I think this game certainly is going to appeal to a lot of Warhawk fans. It certainly is going to appeal to a certain amount of fans that like kind of that tower defense sort of element, but also like shooters. But I just don't know. And I want to give it a few more tries. I'm not totally giving up on it yet. But it just at this point didn't feel, and again, it's a beta, so I'm really trying to cut it some slack here. It just didn't feel like a fully polished experience. And, I get it. It's a beta, so I'm working off old code. It may not necessarily have all the bells and whistles of the final build, but what I saw so far didn't say this is a day one purchase.
I mean, what's its competition?
Well, I mean, truly its competition, I think its biggest competition as far as team-based shooters go is going to be Battlefield 3.
Well, I mean, that's on the release horizon. Let's say that.
Wow, on the release horizon.
Is there anything?
I don't really know that there's anything on the release horizon that's truly going to be competition to this. Not at least in the first half of the year.
When's it
So I mean
out?
It's early May 8th.
Okay, so it isn't that far away. I mean, it certainly benefits from the fact that there's no real competition in the shooter space, team-based shooter space, at least from what we can tell. But I still say, compared up to a Battlefield 3, it definitely feels a lot more unrefined. I think Battlefield 3 really kind of pushes it aside, both graphically and just handling-wise.
Well, I mean, maybe, quite possibly, it could gain a little bit of traction because this is like the Q1 and Q2 of RPGs. And speaking of role-playing game, Dan, you've been playing a little role-playing game, huh?
I've been playing King Arthur 2, the role-playing war game. It's kind of a weird one.
No, I've heard of this, and it has a really long name, and I don't know if this is something that I would dig or not.
Well, it's one for the PC. It's kind of it's a bit weird. It's got the whole RPG side to it. And when you start the game, it's a lot like those old books you used to get, where you decide your own adventures. It feels a lot like that to start with. And then suddenly you're plunked into an RTS. And all the battles are done in an RTS style. And it's I've barely scratched the surface of it, I must admit. I've not done much at all. But it's actually really fun. It's a hell of a resource hog. So you need a fairly good machine to get the most out of it. And yeah, it's great fun. It seems to be going through the whole kind of King Arthur mythology. It takes on from where you're playing the son of King Arthur, and Arthur's on his deathbed, and you've got to go and get a cure or something. As I say, I haven't really delved into the story that much, but it does seem like a great blend of RPG and RTS, which is something I'm quite interested in.
Who developed it?
That's a blinding question. Paradox.
Really?
Paradox. Yeah,
Really?
Paradox Interactive have developed it, and obviously it's a sequel. I think it's rated 16 over here, and probably over there as well. It's fantastic game, well worth a look. It's about $40. That's the only thing. I'm not entirely sure if I'd actually pay that for it. But if you're into your RTSs and your RPGs and you want something that combines the two, then it's worth a look, definitely.
What's so resource intensive about it? I mean, does it need?
I have no idea. I think it's probably bad coding.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is it have a higher CPU restriction, or is it video card, or all of the above? I guess.
Well, that's the thing. I checked out the requirements, and I did my usual kind of having a check on system requirements lab before I installed it. And according to them, my machine can run it fast. No. The first time I booted it up, I just installed it. I thought I'd check to see if it had installed properly, and I was playing League of Legends at the time, and just having the menu up crashed my computer almost.
Well, cause I've seen like some. I mean, then there's not many of them, but there's some like crazy games out there that are like, the requirements are a Core 2 Duo, but a GTX 560 or something like that. Like two components that completely don't even match.
Yeah, and let's see, what does it say here? Okay, Core 2 Duo, 2 gigahertz, and 1.5 gig of RAM. So, it's not for minimum. We're looking at an ATI 3850.
Okay.
512 meg card, or a NVIDIA 8800 GT.
And it'll run like crap.
It'll run.
Technically it'll run. Yeah.
But that's like the bare minimum. It doesn't seem to actually require anything higher than DirectX 9. No, sorry, DirectX 10. So,
okay.
A lot of stuff will run it. Just don't play League of Legends at the same time.
Oh, no kidding. So you had one other little thing on your plate.
Yeah, Snuggle Truck.
Snuggle Truck.
Yeah. That's a fun little game. If you think of Trials HD, but more 2D, and a truck instead of a bike, in the flatbed you've got a load of plush toys that you've got to take to the zoo without running them over. That's kind of the game. It's about $4 at the moment on Steam. It's on sale. It's a fun little game. It's a good time killer. I enjoyed it. The music can get a little bit annoying, but it's fantastic. First game I think from the developers, which are Alchemy Labs, spelled OWL Chemi. And
so we were kind of making fun of you about this before we got the recording, right?
Yeah.
And you linked us to the video on Steam, and it is literally a pickup truck with like 2x4 fencing nailed around the back, the back end of it, and you have to try to keep all these stuffed animals in the truck as you're doing all these Trials HD sort of loop-de-loops and jumps and stuff.
Yeah. Graphically, it kind of reminds me of something maybe like Happy Tree Friends, only without the gore, which is a bit of a shame. The gore would make it fantastic. But it's a great game. It really is. It's well worth $5 of anyone's money.
The thing that I don't get is how it is like $5 over here, and it's on sale 10% off for like $4.49. It's only like 50 cents off. Like I don't even understand what the point is.
Well, that's 10%.
I guess
it's a 10% sale.
10% sale. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just be careful about Dan's opinion on games.
Yeah, especially driving games, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been playing a bunch of games lately, actually, but the two that I were going to talk about was the Twisted Metal demo and the Darkness 2. I will start with the Darkness 2. If you played the first Darkness, it follows a comic book. I never heard about the Darkness until my friend told me about it. He read all the comics and was real excited about the first one. I played it, and the story was fantastic, and the ideas in the game were great, but they just weren't executed real well. In this one, it seems like they kept the story intact somehow, but just overhauled the graphics. Starbreeze Studio made the first one. I can't remember who makes this one, but I'd say if you like the first Darkness, then you'll love the Darkness 2. The game starts out and picks up exactly where the last one left off. A couple years in the future, you're still Jackie Estacado, and you were a mob boss, and you fought off the Darkness in the last one, but it's still inside of you, but it's been dormant. So the second one picks up where you've been kidnapped, and some guy wants the Darkness out of you, but he can't just take it from you. The only way to get the Darkness from you is to make you give it up. So the point of the game is he takes you through different scenarios and basically makes you want to hate the Darkness inside of you. So he makes you murder people and do a bunch of different things that your body doesn't want to do, but the Darkness inside of you makes you do. But the start of the demo, they give you out, they take you and they pretty much give you a tutorial, but they make you play it. Like, you can't just start the game off and just do whatever you want. You have to learn each move as you go, which doesn't take long. It's probably like 10 or 15 seconds per, button press or whatever. But once you get out into the actual world, you get to dual wield any weapons you have, which you could have a machine gun in one hand and a pistol in the other hand. You could have an axe in one hand and a pistol in the other hand. You could have no weapons and just your Darkness powers, but all 4 buttons, which would be the right button, left bumper, left trigger, and right trigger, all are different weapons. So you can essentially shoot one guy while you pick up a car door and throw it through a team of another guys, slicing them in half, where your left arm grabs a pole and throws it through somebody else and sticks them to a wall. And then as soon as you're done, you go up and you pick the people up and you rip them in half and steal their soul or their heart to refill your health. But the game is just, it's grotesque and gruesome, way more than like a Gears of War or something like that.
Yeah.
But it has like a cell-shaded look, sort of. So when you see somebody on the ground, they're cut wide open, and you see like their guts hanging out of them, and it's pretty nasty, but like the fact that it's a little cartoonish kind of gets you over it. So it's not like a queasy kind of feeling. It's just kind of like really fun to watch, if that makes any sense. But the Darkness powers that you use throughout the game, you use them to, they don't like light. It's kind of like a vampire sort of thing, where if they get in the light, they don't come out. So when you go through different areas, you'll have to shoot out the lights with your weapon so that you can then grab people in the darkness and, dismember them or do whatever else you have to do. You can use them for different kind of, I don't really want to say puzzles, because they don't seem like puzzles. They're more like environmental, like help you get through like different gates. Like you'll use them to climb over a gate and pull a switch or something like that. I didn't see any like real in-depth puzzles, but I think they upped the action ante in this one and kind of downplayed the story. Not like the story aspects just as much as it's told. There's way more action in this one than there's storytelling. But all in all, I think the game's going to be fantastic. It comes out February 7th. There is no multiplayer, but there is a 4-player co-op. Nobody has the Darkness powers, though. That's the only kind of thing that's weird. That's why they can't really do a multiplayer, because the Darkness is so strong that if you put it in a multiplayer game, you can't weaken the Darkness and make it not work well, and you can't give everybody a one-hit kill. So that's why there's really no multiplayer. I know some people were kind of disappointed, but I don't think it would work in a game like this anyway.
Well, what is it? Does everybody like control like one tendril?
No, everybody has a weapon.
Or...
Everybody has a different weapon, and their weapon's infused with some sort of darkness. Like the one guy has an axe, and his axe is confused with darkness, and if he catches you or whatever and does a close-up melee kill, he basically like dismembers you from like head to toe.
Okay.
Another guy has a sword. There's some like I think there's like an Asian guy that has a sword, and his sword is infused with darkness, and he can do crazy special stuff whenever he's filled up or whatever.
Okay.
But that's how they do it. They just give everybody like a darkness sort of power to their weapon. And there's just, I think, 4 or 5 different co-op boards. They probably take about an hour or 2 to complete. So it's like an extra 10 hours of gameplay. But
so does it feel different than the Starbreeze stuff? And wait, Starbreeze was what, Escape from Butcher Bay and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's
Correct?
why I wanted it, because Chronicles of Riddick is one of the best games I've ever played.
Mm-hmm. Now this one's done by
it's done by somebody completely different.
Isn't it the ones that sort of that developed Unreal with Epic? Digital Extremes. Isn't that what it is?
Who made that one with the glaive? What was that game?
Dark Sector. Was that it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that was Digital Extremes or not.
Because their last 2 games weren't really technically sound. They were kind of glitchy. This one feels fantastic. I mean, it's buttery smooth from beginning to end. Everything feels great. The way the triggers feel, the way the buttons feel, the way you even level up your character. There's a whole new level up system in it which you don't even leave the world. You just find like a little node in the world. You go up to it, and you level up real quick, spend your points, and you're back to the world. And you can level up your darkness powers. You can level up your swords, or, I guess you can use swords, whatever, or your weapons. But that's the one thing I forgot. There were darklings in the first one, these little creatures that you would control.
Yeah.
And you would send them out to do different things for you. But it never really worked. Like, it worked, but they were just glitchy. They would get stuck on things, and they wouldn't really do what they were supposed to do. And this one, I didn't notice the ability to control the darkling. He kind of did what you could tell him, like, go do this, and he would just go do it. You couldn't control him and make him kill people. He would just run up and just start killing people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would kind of just hung out with you. I don't know, man. That's one I didn't think it was going to be that great of a game, but I'd tell you right now it's probably going to be one of the most exciting shooters I'll play at least this first half of the year.
Well, I think it is 2K Games publishing it, I think, right?
Yeah. And Digital Extremes is the developer.
All right.
Which is crazy because this is probably by far the best game they've made, then I would say.
There was a super huge booth for it at Comic-Con, but I didn't get a chance to play it when I was there. But one thing that Greg and I actually both got a chance to play, a couple years ago at E3, was the Twisted Metal demo.
And how did you like it when you played it?
I thought it felt pretty good when I played it. It's just that now that I'm getting to playing it again, and I just played it a little bit before we started, I don't know, man. I'm having trouble carrying it. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. Because I love Twisted Metal. I'll tell you what I was looking for in the Twisted Metal and what we got in Twisted Metal. I wanted it to play like Twisted Metal Black, but have a control scheme from Twisted Metal 2. And I liked the stories and all that backstory that was in Twisted Metal Black. I thought that was kind of neat. What we got is more of a hybrid, I guess. I don't think there's any story to the characters in this one. I'll tell you that from the beginning. If there is, they didn't show it at all. And it didn't seem like they were named for like a backstory to them. They were kind of just generic names for each vehicle. Some of the vehicles weren't the same. Some of them were. They didn't have a hearse, but they had like a medical car called something medical.
The meat wagon.
Yeah, meat wagon.
Well, I mean, I think they're all like factions now, aren't they?
I don't know.
Like instead of single characters.
For different. See, I don't know what the backstory is in this one, so I think it's pretty much going to be like throwaway.
Yeah.
But I jumped in the game to play it. I just wanted to see how the game felt from the beginning, and I picked the helicopter, which I shouldn't have done because there wasn't a helicopter before. So how did I know how it was going to control? I learned to use it a little bit. It controlled real well. I thought for a helicopter it controlled good, but I jumped out of there and then used the. It wasn't a taxi, but it looked like the taxi, right? And I'll tell you, as soon as I started playing the game, I thought it felt fantastic. I would go as fast as I could go through these tunnels. The world seemed pretty wide open. It wasn't too big that you'll get lost, but it was big enough that you can go full speed without having to wreck into different objects. And I was going as full speed around every turn, never bumped a wall. I just did the tutorial. It let you play. It said it was multiplayer demo, but it would let you play single player. So I played the single player, and I went to just tutorial because I wanted to see what all the buttons did and how they changed the game.
Yeah.
I noticed that what was kind of neat is before you'd have to do like the left, right, forward if you wanted to throw a freeze, or right, left, back if you wanted to, throw a fireball or put your like little invisible dome over your car or whatever. They had all those little perks.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't know if you still pick them up or what, or if you just unlock them doing different things, but you just have to push the directional pad. So if you want to throw a freeze, it just push up. That's it. There's no little code involved in it anymore, which makes it a lot easier to just play and not have to worry about. You can just drive without having to worry about how you're playing the controls. The one thing I can tell you though is there's only one control scheme. I was looking for Deadly Force because that's the best control scheme in my mind. They always had Run and Gun. They had Deadly Force. They had Classic. There was another one I can't remember. And they brought them all back for Twisted Metal Black, but they did not bring back Deadly Force. So in this one, I wanted to see the control scheme. That was the biggest point to me. How is it going to control? And there's only one control scheme. Granted, it felt okay, but when you're going through the tutorial, it asks you to hold square down.
That's the worst
for
part.
Gas.
Yeah, square on gas.
This is the problem. So you're holding down square for gas, which is cool. When you're playing the game, you're controlling with the left stick, you're holding down square, you're double tapping square for your boost. Everything works out great. Until you get in the tutorial and they ask you to go reverse. And the only way to do reverse is back on the right analog stick. So all of a sudden, you're like, well, if I wanted to do the two, because there's only two options, both analog sticks for gas and brake, or the X button for gas and the analog stick for brake. That's pretty much the only difference in the control schemes. So once you're sitting there holding square down to go forward and using the analog stick to go back, it really becomes pointless to you. You're like, I might as well just use both sticks, the control scheme, because you're going to have to use it pretty much anyway. So I switched to the bow stick control scheme, which works fairly well, but it wasn't what I wanted. You know what I mean? It just still doesn't seem like they give you enough. Just let me customize every button.
Well,
it's a game like that. You should be able to customize every button. I don't understand why.
I think the problem with that is that, with the limited amount of buttons that are there, the control scheme is going to get so dense. Like, it may not be dense at that point, but later on in the game, as the mechanics progress and everything like that, shortcut buttons and things like that, that's probably why they're limited to keeping that gas on that button and keeping that control scheme the way it is.
I don't like excuses.
See, I don't agree with that, because I've got a friend who's Southport, and he always complains that he can't, in any game, remap the controls for any game, and he should be able to in this day and age.
See, now that's the one thing you can do. You can flip the controls, you know what I mean? But you can't customize them whatsoever. So you can't. The only button you can change is gas, pretty much.
That's
it's like, do you want to use square for gas, or do you want to use the stick? And you're like, well, I'll use square. Well, we're gonna make you use the stick to use reverse. And if you want a turbo, you have to push the stick down while you're reversing. So it was just a pain in the ass. But I'll tell you what, I didn't like the choice, but when I played it, it worked out well. I can play the game. It felt fine. I didn't feel like I was overly concentrating on the control scheme when I played. There are a lot of buttons used. You're going to use every button for this game. I mean, there's way more weapons this time, and there's more ways to use the weapons. Some of them have like 2 different functions, which you'll have to do different button presses to pull out the different function of the weapon. Like your special weapon, you'll have to load it up and then like hold down the button until it's full and then shoot it. Stuff like that. But I mean, I went online and played a couple times. I didn't play that extensively, but I'll tell you, I think control-wise, they knocked it out of the park. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of levels they have and what kind of community comes out to play it. But the game feels fantastic.
I will say that it does an e-brake 180 just as well as Burnout Paradise.
You're flying down, you turn around, and you're back to going. You're not sitting there waiting for your car to get the tires back. You know what I mean? Like, it's always on point. It's quick. It's responsive. I mean, it's exactly how you'd want it to be. It's actually better than I thought it would feel. I'm surprised they got it to feel that well after playing Black, because Black felt good, but nothing like this. This feels just almost like Test Drive Unlimited 2. Like, not that. I mean, if you understand what I mean, just like a simple, easy to play, go full speed around any turn type of game.
I know this is going to sound like blasphemy, but I sort of love the game that Single Track made when they lost the Twisted Metal license, which was Rogue Trip Vacation 2012. I love that game. We played the snot out of that game.
Have the other two... You guys ever play that game? Anybody besides Steve?
I might be the only person ever.
Nope. Yeah, I never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. It's like a more lighthearted Twisted Metal, but it's all the same mechanics and everything because I don't know, I think they sort of wanted to thumb their nose at Sony because who'd they give the property to at that point after Single Track?
You got me.
989 Studios was who had it after that. Isn't that the ones? Is that the ones who did Jet Moto? Was that Single Track or was that 989?
That was Single Track.
Okay, all right.
I think Jet Moto 989 might have finished They might have got Jet Moto
Maybe.
too.
That's possible. I can't remember.
Yeah, they did. They did Jet Moto 3.
But Road Trip was kind of awesome. I liked it. It was crazy, and plus it had this doofus that you could play as, and his tagline was "Let me put the hurt on him." It was great. Like, it was just so goofy. I loved it. It was great. Well, as far as me in my sort of gaming sphere at the moment, I waved the white flag of backward compatibility. Finally. So sad.
You can still play PS1 games.
Yeah, I know, but that's only partial backward compatibility. I sort of had a yellow light for the third time on the 80 gig Metal Gear Solid bundle PS3, so I decided we got some little bit of dividends paid from the credit union at the first of the year, and I said, you know what? I'm just going out and buying one. Instead of spending $250 on a 160 gig, I just spent the extra $50 and got a 320. And I got to tell you, so far, not really all that satisfied with it. And I know this is going to sound odd, and I guess probably to throw back to last week to the show, how I overanalyze everything. And by the way, right after the show, I pre-ordered Kingdoms of Amalur anyway.
Good.
$45.
Yeah, $45 at ToysRUs.com was great. Free shipping. So I brought this thing home, and the first thing I tried to do was to transfer everything over via Ethernet cable from one PS3 to the other, which I could not get to work for anything. I don't know if anybody's actually accomplished this. I don't know. Have any of you guys ever tried this?
It sounds like it should be easy.
It does, but it totally wasn't. So it ended up that I had to manually do everything. So I copied all my PS1 saves from my virtual memory card and my PS2 saves from my virtual memory card, plus, certain game saves that I made sure that I wanted to have right away. But I uploaded the rest of my saves to the cloud. I found a really nice picture on my PS3 of Simon Ivanov laying on his carpet giving me the thumbs up. So I saved that. I don't know where it came from. I don't even remember getting it. But, just little tiny stuff like that. So I made sure...
He was clothed, right?
Yeah, he was clothed, yeah. It wasn't any naked spread eagle on the carpet or anything like that. So I kind of get the thing hooked up. And I had to unyellow light. I had to fix my 80 gig because Final Fantasy 13-2 was stuck in the Blu-ray drive. It was so awful. Like, I was sitting there playing Final Fantasy and I'm all excited, right? And Lisa calls me into the front room. She's like, come here for a second. So I go out there and she's like, sit down for a second. I'm okay. So I sit down and we're watching something. She's like, check this out. Watch this. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my ear, if that is such a thing, I hear... And I said, oh, no, that is not good. And she looked at me and I said, oh, it's not good. And she's like, okay, watch this. Watch it. So anyway, I walked back there and yellow light of death again for a third time. So it was about 5 or 6 months the first time, 3 months the second time, and 3 months pretty much the third time. So it's getting to be a quarterly thing with that. But I went out and got the Slim. And actually found an Uncharted 3 bundle. So, since I fixed the 80 gig, Zerum Wing is going to buy the old PlayStation off me because, he's a tinkerer. He loves that kind of stuff. He don't care about taking things apart. Hell, he used to reformat his computer every 30 days so he didn't have to activate his pirated version of Windows XP. So, I'm going to give him that. And Uncharted 3 and my voucher for 30 days of PlayStation Plus for like $50.
So when this one fails, can I buy that off you? And I'll build myself a power adapter.
You know what? This thing is...
It's already failed.
It's cool. This thing does not put out any heat at all, man.
Did you chuck in your intercooler?
No. I did for him, yeah. I don't know if it really makes a difference. The bad thing about that thing is I bought it and like 3 days later, the fans go... It's awful. It was like an $8 Chinese eBay intercooler. It was terrible.
Fantastic.
But here's what I don't like about it. And it's not the fact that I don't like it, but, one's a legitimate gripe and the others. Let's start with the others. So
Yeah, because the legitimate gripe is a pretty big gripe.
Yeah, the legitimate gripe is a pretty big gripe. Okay. So first off, the matte black finish is not as sexy as the glossy black one.
Late to the party.
Buddy. I know. Okay.
You know what? It's a hell of a lot sexier when you're seeing fingerprints on the glossy.
I know, but
I don't like that fingerprinted shit.
I don't know. The glossy is just it looks like such a nice piece of kit.
Glossy.
Now I'm down to 2 USB ports where I had 4 before. I still don't know where the hell the bay is for the hard drive. Is it like right under the Blu-ray drive? I have no idea.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I swear to God, I can hear the hard drive grinding. Am I nuts or no?
Yeah.
Okay. The Blu-ray drive, when it sucks a disc in, it sounds way junkier than the first one.
Junkie sucks the disc.
Oh, man.
That was bad.
Junkies are good for that.
I don't like the fact that it doesn't use a standard like PC power supply power cable anymore, because I got a ton of them laying around my house. But this is the biggest gripe. This is my problem. There are some times where I turn that thing on, and I don't know why, but it causes my TV to flicker, and I have to turn my TV on and off until it gets to a point where it's not temperamental enough that it'll accept the HDMI signal.
That's your TV, man.
That's your. Nope, that's the PS3.
Well,
that's the cable. I think it's the cable.
It's not the cable, man.
I'm just trying to make him think his TV's.
Bastard. Here's the deal. The same thing happened with the home theater PC I just bought, because when I started it up and hooked it up to the television, it defaulted to 59 hertz. So it defaulted to 59 frames per second, which does not divide into 120 hertz, which is the TV, evenly. So as soon as I changed the refresh rate on the display adapter to 60 hertz, it was fine. So this is the PS3 now is sort of mimicking the problem that I had before, except that it's doing it way more often. So I don't know if I'm going to have to send this thing back or what, and I just spent all that time like copying all my saves over again and downloading them all from PlayStation Plus from the cloud and blah, 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 blah.
Take the
take
hard,
the hard drive
never
out.
mind.
Yeah, I
Never
mean,
mind.
I'll
You got to find it.
yeah, I don't know where it's at.
It's under the Blu-ray drive. I've just looked it
Why
up.
don't you
Okay.
just take your theater PC and plug it into the TV in the same spot with the same cable and see if what it's doing
Well, that's
now?
what I'm going to do, but I had to unplug it to bring it up here so we could record this show. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of my gripes about it. I don't know. I'm happy that it's quiet, that it's cool, and that I get to play Final Fantasy, like as long as I want, and I can leave it on pause. I can download whatever I want. I don't have to worry about it getting too hot. But by the same token, one little thing kind of sets it off. And I've looked on the internet, and I can't figure it out. Some people have said dynamic themes because maybe there's a video that runs at a different frame rate than the actual display itself, than the signal.
I downloaded that theme too. It did nothing to mine.
Yeah. I don't
You're
know.
running it through your home cinema.
That's another
System.
thing. Yeah.
See, that's my problem. I have, with my surround sound, my HDMI in, I don't know if it's in or out, but they're all messed up. And I get flickering in every station. I got to keep turning mine on and off every time I put my Xbox or anytime I go to on demand, for some reason it always does it with my cable because the signal's switching, I think.
Yeah.
But I got to turn my system on and off before it works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's probably your PS3 because I don't think your TV would just start doing
Well,
that.
see, I haven't turned the home theater off either yet, so I need to maybe turn that off and turn that back on and see if that has anything to do with it. I could also try a different input. But the funny thing is, do you guys...
Maybe it's your surround sound. too. I don't know.
It could
Yeah.
be. I don't know.
Maybe
You got some
it's everything.
investigative work to do, buddy.
I know. Do you guys happen to remember what game was in my PS3 when it yellow lighted the first time?
Oh.
Final Fantasy
No.
13. I don't know.
I think
Just
you're-
taking,
I think
I'm
you're-
taking a stab.
You're closer than you think.
Hold
Um,
on. It was something big, wasn't it? I don't
Didn't
know.
it yellow like once for Portal 2?
No.
No, okay.
Something you're
More than
late-
likely
yeah.
Japanese. I'm gonna blame it on the Japanese right now.
So, obviously we're going to talk about here after the break, we're going to talk about, what killed the JRPG. I am no stranger to irony. I understand exactly what irony is on a daily basis. It's rather funny that Demon Souls was in there the very first time. So, not only did something kill the JRPG, but 2 JRPGs killed my PlayStation 3. It's no secret that the Japanese role-playing game is, for all intents and purposes, on life support at this point. But why? In my opinion, the onset of fully voiced dialogue began the decline. Japanese culture is one of such exposition that older JRPGs conveyed their sense of emotion and storytelling through the soundtrack as something that reinforced the primary pillar of the written word. Cultures had no need to clash, and all was well. So, Greg, this whole topic was sort of born out of a conversation that you and I had.
Right.
And I had expressed to you that this was sort of where I think it started to go wrong. And the thing that bothers me about this is, if it is indeed true, and I'm not entirely sure that it is, I was the guy who, through Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, all I want is to be able to hear these characters. And here, if I finally get what I wanted, now that has led to where we are today.
Well, I mean, I think it's actually kind of a combination of a lot of factors as to why the Japanese RPG seems to be dying. And I'll say seems to be dying. I certainly think it can be resurrected, but I think that certainly voice acting and their choices and how they go about that has been part of the issue. I really kind of broke it down. I think there's kind of 4 different areas where the Japanese RPG has kind of failed to evolve properly.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the Japanese RPGs really hit their stride in the early days of, the PlayStations and the SNESes. They really took flight with, Final Fantasy really kind of kicked it off. And a big reason why Final Fantasy was so popular was because it was a beautiful game in that it had these CGI cutscenes that rewarded the game player as they played. It was something you strode to, you wanted to get to that next CGI cutscene because it was just so amazing in how it presented and looked compared to what you had just been playing. Because honestly, the graphics of the old RPGs were nothing to, write home about. They weren't great, but they had these amazing CGI cutscenes, and that became a staple of Japanese RPGs and really kind of propelled them to this popularity. But as games have progressed and as developers have gotten better hardware, and we're now at this time where in-game engines are almost as good as CGI cutscenes, those cutscene rewards just aren't there anymore. You don't get that same satisfaction of watching a CGI cutscene as you did in the old days with the first JRPGs. And so I think that, the developers for the JRPGs now continue in that kind of mindset of, we need to create these CGI cutscenes, whereas I think they would be better off focusing more in other areas and not worrying so much about the CGI cutscene and allow them to tell their stories within the game engine and have it be more seamless.
There is some truth to that, and no one does Flash like Square-Enix, obviously, as far as that goes in the JRPG realm. But we had, I think we had a voicemail that was something along these lines right here.
Greetings, hosts, co-hosts, and guest stars. CP Matthew from the OC show here with his thoughts on the demise of the Japanese RPG. No more eye candy rewards. So it used to be that this really pixelated 8-bit gameplay, and you played for hours, and then you got a 5-minute pre-rendered cutscene that was just lovely to look at, and that made all of the grinding worth it. But anymore, the whole game looks like that, so why spend that much time grinding just to get to a cutscene? Japanese games in general tend to require a certain level of obsession. Look at Xcalybr 6 with all the medals and rewards and completing the game on every freaking type of difficulty and without your machine guns and with your machine guns and with a buddy and without a buddy. I'm out of breath. I think the Western gamer lacks that level of dedication to a single title that it takes to really master some of these games. Combat systems, largely unchanged since the days of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, it just looks nicer. Whereas Western RPGs have blended other genres into their gameplay. Look at Fallout 3 with their shooting mechanics, and Fable 3 with their action combat mechanics. Mass Effect is another example with the good cover shooter blended into an RPG. Whereas the Western RPGs haven't really evolved and moved forward that way, and it makes the Western RPG more accessible to a wider audience. So those are my thoughts. A little bit longer than I meant to make them. Have a good show, guys. And just for Big Smooth 8, CP out!
Oh, bless him.
I agree. I was about to say pretty much the same thing because, I kind of forget that that's why I played it. I think those games were fantastic, and that's why I played them, and that's really not why you played it. You played it because the summons looked super cool and the cutscenes looked really neat. But I think nowadays it just takes... Some of these games are really good. Like Lost Odyssey was fantastic. Tales of Vesperia, pretty good. There's a bunch of these games that are still really good, but I think they're too slow to start off, and they do look a little kiddie. So some people don't want to play, like in the days of Call of Duty and real-looking games, people don't want to play games that look like cartoons when they sit down and play their Xbox or, you know, whatever system they play. But I also think that when we were younger, the point in playing games, like when we played role-playing games, we wanted to sit down and get deep and mess with all the stats and do all the grinding and find all the loot. And you would just, that's what you would do. I mean, whether there were cutscenes or not, even in games like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, where that was the point of the game, to the grind. The grind was fun. That's what we like to do. But now, in this day and age, everything's to the point. People don't like to wait for things. Everything's given to you. Like, you watch a movie, you want the action now. You're playing a game, you give it about 5 or 10 minutes, and if you don't like it right away, you're not going to like it. And I think the Japanese RPG is sort of in trouble because they expect you to play the game for 10 hours before you get to the good stuff, and our attention span isn't like it used to be. So I just think it's part the eye candy and part the attention span of the population just isn't as long as you'd like to give them credit for it being.
So the JRPG is sort of a victim of circumstance?
I think it's just a victim of tradition and not wanting to change.
Well, so we had something here from Spock and off of the Gate forums, and he says, well, I believe that video is the culprit for the radio star's demise, but the JRPG? Could it be that the original target demographic are mostly now married and have kids? I do bet, however, that there are plenty of mid-20s to early 40s who still reside in mom's basement, blissfully and terminally single.
Is he talking about me there? Not the basement, they're terminally single, but I mean.
Who only need to stop to get their jobs at Walmart, Borders, Books, or local gas stations. The lucky ones, the real diehards, i.e. the otaku, still have the benefit of no gainful employment. Therefore, they can be engrossed 23 and a half hours out of every day in their beautiful world of Inuyasha, Bubblegum Crisis, and other less savory hentai pursuits.
Yeah, he's talking about me again.
Hardlydan. I've even heard the true story of early 20-something, a full-time college student with no job, whose house and all related expenses were paid by his wife, a stripper. He took out his college loans, skipped class to play all day and all night, and get this, paid for his multiple World of Warcraft memberships with these borrowed funds.
So you don't have the time anymore, I think, is what he was trying to get at.
I know I don't.
And that's true.
But
that's true.
I think he hits on something, but it gets kind of lost a little bit in the you don't have time for it. And this was actually one of the other elements I was going to talk about, is the average age of a gamer is so different now than it was back in the heyday of the JRPG.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's
we now the average gamer in 2011 is 37 years old. 37. And that's a person that's been playing 12 plus years of gaming. So you figure, you kind of count back, that means about 1999, the average age of the gamer was about 22.
Wow.
And we know in 2004 it was 29. So the average age of the gamer has increased. Our expectations of story and quality voice acting and what we want has changed. You know, I watch movies now, and what I watched when I was 12 and 14 years old, I think is shit. But back then, I thought it was awesome.
Yep.
And so my expectations now, you know, I want Denzel Washington-like performances now. I expect that. And what I think the biggest problem with the JRPGs, they have not evolved their stories or their dialogue to grow with the gamer. They are still making dialogue that befits a 12 and 14-year-old.
Yeah, but you know what, though? The funny thing is, and maybe we're sort of both right or both hitting on something here, I can still listen to those older soundtracks, and I still love them exactly as much, if not more, than the day that I first heard them.
Well, I think you love the music, Steve.
Yeah,
and that's
you don't play the
different.
music.
That's very different than enjoying the dialogue.
Yeah, well, I agree with that.
Those older games don't have the god-awful voice acting that they have now.
But Final Fantasy XIII's voice acting wasn't that bad.
It is. It's over embellished.
Yeah, but Vanille's one character.
But it has all. when there's certain, we mentioned like 3 or 4 serious problems with the JRPG, and maybe the voice acting is not that bad, but it still takes forever to start. You know what I mean? And there's in the grinding, and there's something wrong with all of them. Nobody's been able to get it right yet. They need to just make an action RPG and just drop the whole turn-based or whatever the weird sucked into another vortex to fight whole thing is.
I still like the whole JRPG combat system. The thing I think
do
the
too,
problem is,
but I mean, if they're gonna die if they don't expand, we're not enough to live off of.
Oh
See,
no, of course.
I think the JRPG combat system it's a very niche market. You know, I know you guys enjoy it. The turn-based, have everybody kind of lined up and you know you're grinding it out that way. But on a whole, especially as we're looking at the Western markets, and I think that's really kind of where the Japanese RPG is dying, is in the Western markets. It's still doing relatively okay in Japan, of course, but where they're trying to make inroads in the Western markets, we have, on a whole, a different expectation. We know combat is not just about, what you've equipped. It's about flanking. It's about moving. It's about support, and a lot of the JRPG combat mechanics typically, not always, but typically don't involve that. Now, Demon Souls and Dark Souls is a quite honestly a very refreshing Japanese RPG, and I call it a Japanese RPG in quotes because I really think it's a Western RPG from a Japanese developer.
It's a JRPG. Is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, I mean it really took. It has a few Japanese tropes to it, but on a whole, it is very Westernized, and it's been rewarded.
Okay,
for that.
so
it's done very well.
2 points. One, I'm still finding myself in Final Fantasy XIII, which, by the way, I am really enjoying, and I should have known that the waves and hordes of JRPG hyperbole would have come out right before it, and I should have known better that I was going to enjoy it. Okay, that's neither here nor there. But I'm still finding myself, and maybe I am just a sliver of a percent of the audience that likes this stuff, but I'm finding myself already trying to grind because my goal in a JRPG was always to be as a god. My goal always was 10 levels higher than where I was supposed to be.
You want to be a double-eyed bastard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm already catching myself being 2 or 3 stages on the Crystarium higher than where I should be in 13.2. Number 2, and along the same lines of 13.2, now it incorporates, a more Western mentality of an autosave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it seems that in the development of these JRPGs, they just don't get Western culture. They implement an autosave, but they do not implement it in the correct fashion. There's an autosave, but it is your only save. So if you manually save, it takes the place of that autosave and rewrites over it, instead of allowing you to have the save that you want to keep plus the autosave, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. But I mean, I wonder if that's a sore spot with JRPGs or if that's just the developer coding and maybe not being able to, be able to do the multiple save route just based on the way they created things.
I don't know. They could still do it in Skyrim. I don't see, and I like having 6 million saves for that too.
Well, let's face it, Skyrim is a very unique situation, though. I mean...
Yeah, but when you chuck in the whole kind of time travel thing in Final Fantasy 13 too, you kind of want to be able to have more than one save.
Yeah.
Just
because there's so many different decisions you make, the way you level up your Crystarium, and it's convoluted enough as it is. Now knowing that I can't even really make a mistake just kind of frustrates me a little bit when I go to level my character up.
Development, the character development itself is very final.
Yeah.
It is, you get one shot to use that node for whatever one of the 6 jobs that you have, and that's it. It's not like every job had their own Crystarium path. Not anymore.
It's a replay bullet point.
Exactly.
Make you replay the game again.
I guess. I don't know. But we had something here from John Mal5, and he says, I do not think that the target audience has grown up, not been able to afford the games anymore, or has moved on. If the JRPGs are good enough, then the people will find the time, buy the games, and they will find new audiences in the interest and hearts of younger gamers. JRPGs have not evolved in any way other than now playing themselves. Hold the A button on Final Fantasy XIII and the game's battles fight themselves. I'm a huge Final Fantasy X fan, but I could not care less for the latter Final Fantasy games. Too many characters, convoluted plots, and characters that look as though they were 12 years old. I don't know, androgyny for the win, man. But anyway, all other genres have evolved and moved on. FPSs have cover, realistic shooting mechanics, kill streaks, and many other additions that have always boosted and freshened up the genre. Adventure games have always pushed further to up the ante, and we have seen the scaling of buildings, fluid combat, and better, bigger, and bolder storylines. Sports games have the added ability to play as every member of an entire team or follow the progress of one individual through his career. JRPGs have stagnated and been stuck in the same loop of menus, overwhelming amounts of statistics, and obligatory boss fights that spike in difficulty. Is this guy trying to romance me or what? 'Cause he's speaking my language right there. JRPGs are dying, and one day in the future they may return to form, but I think it would be best if the genre was left to breathe. No remakes, no new JRPG IPs, no more bloody Final Fantasy games. Curse you, sir. Curse you. More of the music, though, please. The Final Fantasy soundtracks are better than the games. So, is it possible that JRPGs have not evolved because everything is evolved and pulling things from it?
I don't think so. Yeah, you could make a case for RPGs having pulled some stuff from JRPGs. I don't think the shooters really have pulled from JRPGs per se.
I think they've definitely pulled the grinding from it.
But see, weren't
not from
JRPGs the only...
I think they've... Sorry, and I'll let you get your thought in there, but I think they pulled from the RPG genre, not JRPG. Shooters have evolved to give you perks and leveling up ability, but I would not sit there and say that is a JRPG trope. That is a trope of RPGs in evolving a character. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that's something that they pulled specifically from a JRPG. I would say that's something they specifically pulled from the RPG genre.
See, but weren't all RPGs in their original form JRPGs? The only reason we have anything other than... That's the only reason a JRPG is a JRPG is because the West started making RPGs, and we had to differentiate the two. So it seems like I've noticed over the last, this whole console generation, that all games are pulling... If the definition of an RPG is to basically level up your character and have control over the character that you build, essentially, then it seems like all games are taking parts of RPGs and incorporating them. They're just making you get to the meat and potatoes of the game, like Mass Effect. It's like, here's the RPG, you can level up a little bit, but there's more action. But here now you can tweak your character. It seems like to me like a lot of people pulled from RPGs, but I would think the original RPG is the JRPG. The only difference is that somebody had the idea to mix. They're like, hey, let's take this shooting game and put RPG elements in it, and it's still an RPG because you level your character up, but it's really not. They're all Western RPGs are action RPGs. That's the difference. They're really not the same game.
Well, I think all RPGs actually are an evolution of pen and paper games.
Yeah, originally.
And that we need to remember they all evolved from pen and paper games where we had dice rolls, we had stats behind the systems that they got so complicated that somebody finally said, hey, we could make video games that could do this for us.
It goes beyond that as well. They're all evolutions of stories. That's what it is. It's all about stories. And that's what it comes down to with any game and, with any RPG. It's the story. And I think that's the problem. The demise of the JRPG is the story. They've become so convoluted. I mean, look at Eternal Sonata. I have no idea what happened in that game. I've played hours and hours of it. I haven't got a freaking clue what happened.
Well, I mean, and you make a great point, Dan. You make a great point because I think the JRPG, you could almost say, take any JRPG, throw it in front of you, and guess that the storyline is going to revolve around a band of kids in some fashion or another that are saving the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, when we were younger, when JRPGs really were in their prime, was a great story for us to hear because we were like, we were kids and we were like, we want to do this stuff. We can do this stuff. We can save the world. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But now... That's
what we dreamt of when we were asleep. We had dreams of saving the world. And there's a princess that needed capturing. All games have done that. From Mario to, Outrun winning the race. They've all kind of harkened back to our dreams. But now we've got older, and our dreams are just paying the mortgage on time.
Well, but see, Dan, I think, our dreams are still of saving the world, but we want somebody we can relate to. I can't relate to playing a 10-year-old kid that's saving the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to a, 30-something shepherd that's saving the universe. Not really relate to, but that, I want to play that character, okay? And going back to the stats, we know 37, the average age of the gamer. We know now 50 years old. We've got 29% of our gamers are 50 and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 9% back in 1999.
Yeah.
About 5-6 years ago, I used to regularly play Burnout Revenge with a guy in his 60s.
Huh?
That guy was awesome.
But so, as we've gotten older, our expectations have changed in terms of what we're going to relate to. And that's where I truly think you're hitting it on the head. The JRPG has not evolved in that regard. No. And that's probably what makes Demon Souls and Dark Souls so popular in the West, is that it actually stayed away from the I'm 10 years old and saving the world. And so that, I think, is a big area where if JRPGs want to survive, they're going to have to evolve. If you look at, say, like the Wii, and I went through and I pulled some stats on RPG, the genre RPG, and what games have sold over a million units. Because I figured 1 million units is kind of a nice benchmark of success. On the Wii, there were 2 titles that did that. There was Monster Hunter Tri and Pokemon Battle Revolution. So those certainly are definitely traditional Japanese kind of RPG type games.
Yeah.
Looking at the PC. Now, granted, this doesn't take in digital sales, so it's certainly skewed in this regard, but I think it's worth noting, not one Japanese RPG out of 9 games that went over 1 million. So you had World of Warcraft with all of its different trappings. You had Diablo, Diablo 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim. Those basically are on the PC.
That's something I wanted to touch on, actually. One thing that could help save the JRPG is the fact that it doesn't seem like that many of them ever get released on anything other than the consoles.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of PC players. It's bigger than all of the consoles combined. Now, if they want to sell some more units, perhaps maybe put the next Final Fantasy on the PC. Put the next... Well, maybe not the next Eternal Sonata, because, god damn it, that's going to be awful. But, Monster Hunter Tri, that would have been fantastic on the PC. Especially with the power behind a lot of PCs now.
Yeah.
I'm going to read off some stats off the Xbox 360 and the PS3, just in terms of, again, this 1 million mark, and it's going to be very telling. So on the 360, and I'll start there because we know the PS3 is JRPG land.
Yeah.
You have Elder Scrolls Skyrim as the number 1 seller, Fable 3, then Fable 2, Fallout 3, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Fallout New Vegas, Mass Effect 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Mass Effect, Dragon Age Origins, Final Fantasy 13 at number 11, but ironically, Deus Ex was considered a shooter for some reason, not an RPG, but I included that just because it ended up doing about 2 million worldwide. So that was on the 360. So Final Fantasy came in at number 11, and that was the only JRPG on that list. On the PS3, Final Fantasy 13 is the number 1 seller.
Wow.
In terms of RPGs at 4.78 worldwide. But interestingly enough, it did 1.87 million in Japan. So outside of Japan, it wasn't necessarily huge. Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, Fallout 3, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Fallout New Vegas, Demon Souls, Dragon Age Origins, Valkyria Chronicles, and Dark Souls.
Wow.
I mean, as you're looking at the trend, the Japanese RPG in the traditional sense, with the exception of Final Fantasy 13 and the 2 Wii titles, is pretty much non-existent.
Well, see, and it kind of makes my heart sad.
It doesn't make my heart sad. It's a wake-up call to Japan. It's a wake-up call to the JRPG developers.
I agree with that.
Especially when, on the 360, there's a BRG. Fuck, I can't say it. There's a BRPG that's doing better. British RPG. The Fable. Well, the whole Fable series.
The reason it makes me sad is that I'm afraid that, and I don't know, maybe this isn't as bad of a thing as I'm making it out to be, but I'm afraid that there's this whole generation of gamers out there that are going to see Skyrim as the standard RPG.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Is that a bad thing?
I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
I don't know. I think it is. Like everything in my gut is telling me that's a bad thing. Or like Mass Appeal 3.
Skyrim's a fantastic game.
Let's see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think Kings of Amalur is going to change some stuff in the landscape, I think.
It could too.
I don't think they're going to get away with these shitty control schemes and like Skyrim's fantastic, but like let's be real, like when Steve told me he hated the combat, I was like, "What?" Then I sat there and played it the other day and I'm thinking, like, this does kind of suck. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that fantastic. It's neat the way it works, but I mean...
It's rigid and wooden.
It is. And I can't wait till Kings of Amalur. The bow is fantastic. That's the best bow I've ever used in my life. That's how bad the game's combat is, that the bow's the best thing in it.
Okay, so let me...
Bow's fucking awesome.
Let me ask you a quick round the table. How do Eastern developers fix the JRPG conundrum Xcalybr?
Better gameplay and... more thought out story. I'm not even more thought out because it seems like they're too convoluted as it is. Just simple.
A story.
I don't even know how to. Just a good story that's easy to understand and a good combat that goes with it. Don't focus on all the bells and whistles. Just make something that plays well and tells a good story.
Dan,
they sit down, take a long, hard look at themselves and what everyone else is doing, and a good story. It's all about the story for me. Just make it comprehensible. We've got to be able to understand what the fuck's going on. Excuse my language. I don't want to be sitting there after Extra Life. I played Eternal Sonata for 13 hours solid, and after 13 hours I was none the wiser. My brain was fried. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I could have told you that if you would have. I'd forgotten my name. It was horrible.
Greg.
So for me, fixing the JRPG, it's going to be a two-prong approach. One, the Japanese developers have to understand the audience they're making their games for. So if they just want to release in Japan, fine. Make it however you want to make it. But if they're going to be releasing it to a Western audience, don't just try and do these direct translations and direct literal translations of dialogue into the Western game. Hire Western writers, hire Western developers and directors to help make a Western RPG out of your JRPG. And I mean that in that, you know what, when they have something in a Japanese story and they try and do a direct translation to the Western dialogue, it comes out horribly wrong. It never sounds very fluid to us. Just like I'm sure as we try and translate stuff from the West over to Japan, it probably doesn't come across very well either. So take the time, hire the right staff, and Westernize it. But when I say Westernize it, I'm not just saying translate it. I'm saying rewrite it and have Western developers and writers rewrite the story to make it fit a Western audience.
Yeah, get some bilingual Westerners to make it sell.
Yeah, and for God's sakes, no more 10-year-olds.
Well,
no more 10-year-olds saving the world.
I think
time to grow up, Japan. It's time to grow up.
I do think that what you say there's some truth in that, because I think for the longest time, like Final Fantasy X and sort of up from there, instead of and I think I agree with you that code development is probably the key. Like code development at the same time, like simultaneously. It seemed like script writing to fit the mouth movements of the Japanese dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And it just never really matched up.
Yeah.
But there's still a part of me that wants to go back. Maybe you branched off the wrong way. Go back to square one where they worked, with an overworld map, with an airship, with good combat, with exploration, all that stuff that made the JRPG, and sort of try to branch out from a different perspective. And I think, like you said, code development at the same time is the key. So, just to kind of wrap this up, we had one last submission from Marcanix, from our good buddy Marcanix. He says, I think the thing that's killed it is the J in the JRPG. A bit of biased answer here is I am not a fan of JRPGs, but I do like Western RPGs. I just don't get the Japanesey feel and look of them. Come on, man. The that's what it's all about. Yeah, he said, is the main character male or female is a good example. They all look the same and underage at that.
The females have boobs.
Yeah. And I don't care what anybody says, Vanilla is not as young as they say she is. So, nah.
You tell yourself that.
All right, so he says, oh, Steve, keep an eye on that Greg bloke. He will try to take over your podcast. So, being that he did try to take over the podcast, it's about time for us to say goodbye to Mr. Murphy's Law because he has to run. So,
yes,
pimp it out real quick, and then we'll take a break and come back for Bastion.
Well, excellent. Well, you guys, thank you very much for inviting me over to the podcast and taking part in this discussion. Steve, I know you and I have gone round and round on this for a few weeks now, literally. I mean, morning phone calls on my way to the gym, bitching about JRPGs. So I definitely had a lot of fun talking with you guys about it, and I would certainly welcome an invite back if there should ever be one.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah, you can also, of course, check out myself as well as Mr. Christopher Matthew, who was on here earlier with his little voicemail, and Mr. Mike Chin and Richard Primrose on the Overseas Connection. So we are a podcast in brethren, if you will.
Yes, exactly. And the official podcast of the G4TE.com community, sir, which is, by the way, a fantastic mineable resource for good input for shows.
Yes, and might I add, missing 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds.
Nah.
Aiming for the elderly, baby.
We have to have them somewhere.
They've got a fantastic Formula One championship on at the moment.
Yes.
Which I'm losing.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much, and we'll try to get you on sometime soon. I'm sure we'll come up with a bunch of topics between now and then.
We'll talk about the death of the Western RPG next. So.
or the lowest common denomination of the Western RPG. Yeah.
That sounds like a show.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, and we shall be right back to talk a little Bastion. Alright, Dan, so we're going to do a little Bastion spoiler section. So, we sort of lost Mr. Xcalybr as well, but only because there are a few powerful moments toward the end of the game. I don't think he made it there, and I really don't want to spoil that at all.
Let this be an early warning. If you haven't finished Bastion, you should probably pause this, go and finish it, come back, and then listen to the rest
Yes, exactly. let me ask you, Dan, what sort of mechanics or systems stood out to you the most in the game? So, like, from a purely mechanical perspective.
Well, for me, it was the horrible control system playing it on the PC.
Oh, you played with the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, I did. And there's two methods for playing it on the mouse and keyboard. There's the keys for direction.
Okay.
And the mouse for aiming and the buttons for shooting and for attacking. And which is the one I chose to use. Or there's the mouse for basically you hold down the left mouse button, you walk towards it, kind of old school dungeon crawler style. Neither of which work particularly well.
Yeah, the game's not made for that, is it?
No, you really do need to play it with the control. I was just far too lazy. I got so used to playing it with the keys. The problem for me was the fact that, it's kind of that isometric view. As a result, left isn't really left, up isn't really up, and you've got a couple of keys you've got to press, which, it's not really a problem, but it's not really accurate. You can't really get, in between like the 45-degree angle as opposed to the 290-degree angles, So it was a bit awkward. But you can get past it. You can complete the game with it on that, with a bit of trial and error. That was the main thing that stuck out for me. It was horrible to play with a keyboard.
I think this was the first game that I played after I got my 360 controller dongle for my home theater PC. Because
Fantastic bit of kit, that, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, I played it on Steam and had a blast with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely made for a controller and controls rather well. Like I wasn't sure at first. You know how it is with 2D things anymore, 2D games. It's sort of okay. Obviously, that sometimes if the hit detection isn't exactly right, it's really not fun.
No, yeah.
I think that the hit detection here was fantastic.
Oh, it was spot on. It was pixel perfect. It really was.
Yeah, it was great. But one of the things that stands out to me the most, and you're going to hear it throughout this little discussion here, was the soundtrack.
A while back, we were talking for our Game of the Year shows and our awards, and I stupidly said I didn't think the music in Bastion really warranted a mention. And for me at the time, I hadn't played much of Bastion, and I didn't think it did. It was more that guy's voice was amazing, and the whole kind of the way the story was delivered, that was fantastic. But now I've actually played the whole game, and just as late as you are to that party. It's fantastic. It really is. There were bits that reminded me of so much of Final Fantasy, but I loved the story. Loved the music. Sorry, it's fantastic.
It's honestly about the whole entire package.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all so polished. It really is. It's one of those games like Portal where it's got its roadmap set out. They've decided what they're going to do, and they've done that. And they've made that one bit, that one story, and the way they're going to do it. They've just focused so much on how it's going to be delivered. It's fantastic. I can't I don't have the words to describe how brilliant I think Bastion is.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it is very well thought out, and it is a game that is layered, maybe, if that makes sense. It's layered very well, and there's not only layers of mechanical proficiency, but there are also emotional layers on top of that.
Definitely, and just the way it all comes together, and it's just like it's like the best cupcake you've ever had. from the icing down, from just peeling that paper wrapper off to the icing and everything in between. And then there's this kind of fantastic little fondant bit in the middle that you didn't imagine would be there. And it's brilliant.
Well, I think my favorite part, and I really like the soundtrack, but I think the soundtrack actually becomes maybe a close second for me. But the part that amazed me the most is I don't know if they have sort of like an in-house psychiatrist or something. Or psychologist, I guess would be a better word, because this game plays on the human psyche more than I think any game I've ever played.
You've not played enough of Deadly Premonition.
Oh, God. I don't know.
I'd go so far as to say maybe not an in-house psychiatrist or psychologist, maybe just an in-house nut job.
I don't think as much of a nut job as when I say that, I'm talking a lot about it plays off of first off, story-wise, the human need for companionship.
Yeah.
First. And obviously, at the end of the world, the pool for that is rather limited. But when you couple that with the human need for sort of normalcy and how we get into a rut and how we get comfortable. So,
yeah,
and I think that the weapons, the way they introduce the weapons and things play off of that, where I really like this, this rifle, or I really like this, but they're offering me this, and it seems like it's going to be better in that situation, but I'm so comfortable.
Yeah, and then you try the new one, and you're like, I don't like this so much.
And then you use it a little bit, and it's great.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I don't know.
Like that spear. I didn't like that spear to start with.
Yeah, well, it leaves you open too much. But then, if you block and you use it correctly, it's a one-hit kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used, what was the blade, the knife thing? What was it?
The machete kind of
Yeah,
thing.
the machete. I used that all the way through the game. I loved it.
You can get that thing so quick.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I never thought that I would like the mortar.
I loved that. As soon as I got it, I was like, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, but I think it's crazy because I think it was only a 7-man team at Supergiant that put this game together.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can just tell that it was just a labor of love, So much so. And I wish I'd paid more than I had for it, I know. I feel guilty, too, for only paying $5. Well, let's get into the story a little bit.
Listen, all this takes a lot of getting used to. And you do get used to it after a while. There's 3 things I'll always miss, though. 1, not having to watch my step all the time. 2, forget about 2. And 3, I miss the songs. Folks from Ceylondia knew how to carry a tune. Sure, we've got some songs on the old gramophone, but try and imagine what they sounded like, playing to a room full of fine people, unwinding at the sole regret after a hard day's work. Those were the days.
So, Dan, the Calamity destroyed the city of Ceylondia and much of the old world. It is speculated to have accomplished this by fracturing the surface of the world, literally tearing it to pieces. And I think this is the reason why, as the kid walks, the pieces sort of form together in front of his feet.
Such an amazing, great mechanic.
It was something that I wasn't expecting out of the game because I wasn't too super huge on this game, pre-release until I saw what it was. And, the only reason I hadn't played it was because I didn't believe what Microsoft was doing with Summer of Arcade.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah, you had some issues with
didn't
Summer of
like
Arcade.
And the narration. And funny thing was, the very beginning, the kid's just laying there.
Yeah, you're on the bed.
Until you move the stick, he doesn't do anything. Does it remind you of any other downloadable game you might have played in the last few years?
No, but then I have such a terrible memory.
It made me think a lot of Limbo.
Oh, yeah, Limbo. Yeah, of course.
In the very beginning, because obviously the kid didn't do anything until you moved him.
Yeah.
Which was kind of weird, but the biggest thing, obviously, like you said, was, and I think this is the biggest impact early on, is the narrator. There's nothing until you move the stick for him to get up and you hear, kid gets up.
I did that.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, there are so many different little trigger points programmed into this game for this narrator, I would like to see stacked end to end how many minutes of actual dialogue were recorded for this game, as far as a narrative perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a huge amount. I wouldn't be surprised if there was stuff that I haven't heard yet.
Now, supposedly, there's different dialogue in the New Game Plus mode, which I haven't even tackled yet. But by the same token, I guess you remember the part, and I don't even know, I don't have it on the outline here, but there was a part where the kid sort of gets drugged and he goes back through, like, revisiting some of the levels, I guess, in a dream.
Yeah.
And the dialogue's slightly different there, too.
The one you, with the pipe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so awakening on one of the few remaining pieces of the old world, the kid sets off for the titular Bastion, where everyone was supposed to go in troubled times. So apparently this is something that everyone knew in Celandia, that if shit goes down, man, you head to the Bastion. But the kid reaches the Bastion to discover that the only living soul he's come across is the narrator of the story, and his name is Rux. He's initially known as the Stranger, I want to say.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Yeah. And that gear-shaped thing that is on the kid's back has the inherent ability to detect the cores needed to rebuild the Bastion to its former glory. Kind of neat. I wasn't expecting that guy to be the narrator.
No, not at all. And there were bits involving him later on, which we'll get to, that I wasn't expecting as well. And
yeah.
The way they would tell the story. And it's all told, it starts off and it's as if you're the third person and you're the person that's being told the story to. And then later on, you find out that it's not you. It's fantastic.
And I, as much as I think if this was a sports team, I would give Greg Kasavin the MVP for the script.
Mm.
But then I think about how solid the game is and everything, and maybe not. I don't know. It's not just him, even though he's the rock star sort of name attached to it, The kid discovers an Ura man, which the Ura is another race of the people, like sort of a rival race of people. And this man is named Zulf. And he is among those turned to stone as a result of the calamity. And this part, Dan, kind of creeped me out. I mean, it didn't really creep me out, but it sort of reinforced really what they were trying to go for. It was really, I don't want to say that it was emotional, but it was very impactful for me.
Yeah.
Because as he's walking through, you see all of the people that were turned to stone in an instant by the calamity. And as he walks past, the narrator says something like, "The Jawsons didn't make it." I don't know whatever the guy's name was.
Tiny bit of backstory about each of the people, and I did actually hit all of them. They all turned to dust.
Yeah, it was awesome. And you're walking through, and they're like, let's say the guy's name was Andy or something like that. You'd be like, Andy Sr. didn't make it. Andy Jr. didn't make it. And the whole thing, it's showing that he is pretty much basically the only one of the only survivors, one of the few survivors of this culture, and he comes across this Ura man named Zulf, and, he can already tell that, this guy, he isn't like everyone else.
The first time I saw Zulf, the way he's looking up with that, it reminded me of The Scream by Edvard Munch.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That kind of look of despair in his face. It was like he was I saw that and I was just like, whoa, what's with this guy?
Yeah, Zolf definitely was, more than meets the eye, if you will. So there was another area in the game, and it was called Prosper Bluff. And this, to me, was the first really, really powerful point of the game. And walking through Prosper Bluff, Rux explains as the narrator that the kid hears something that he hadn't heard in a long time, and that was singing. And, Rux starts to do his little humming thing. And that humming sort of turns into a song, and as the kid gets closer, it gets less muted, and it gets a little bit more bold, which I thought that was brilliant, too. That was sort of directional, but, not in a surround sort of sense.
Yeah, you just, get closer, it gets louder.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really, really excellently smart. So a Solandian-raised Ura girl named Zia returns with the kid along with her father's hidebound journal. And her singing
was haunting.
That was exactly the word that I was going for. It was, build that wall, which is sort of become synonymous with the name Bastion.
I dig my hole, you build a wall. I dig my hole, you build a wall. One day that wall is gonna fall. Gonna build that city on a hill. Gonna build that city on a hill. Someday those tears are gonna spill. So build that wall and build it strong, 'cause we'll be there before too long.
A little part of me fell in love with her when I heard that.
Yeah. I mean, I still sort of get chills when I hear that.
It's fantastic.
I can't even articulate how much that affected me.
It is one of the high points of the game, really.
Yes. And that point right there was where I knew I was hooked.
But it's one of those bittersweet high points of the game, because that song is so haunting and so melancholic that it actually makes you feel quite down. But it's such a fantastic part of the game, you can't call it anything but a high point of the game.
Exactly. So after that, Zolf reads the hidebound journal, and he discovers that Ven, who is Zia's father, was working with the Solandians to build a weapon that would wipe the Uran people from the old world. That didn't make him too happy.
No.
Didn't make him too happy. So Zolf then intentionally damages the Bastion within inches of being beyond repair, and returns to the Ura territory, kidnapping Zia and taking her along as well. So here, this whole time, and again, pulling on your heartstrings, you're building toward this great common goal, and suddenly everything that you didn't even know that you held dear was sort of yanked away from you.
Yeah. It's a tough game.
Very much so. Soon after, and this was sort of the plot twist of the whole thing, and I don't know, I know it sounds silly, but my jaw kind of hit the floor. Soon after, Rux explains to the kid that Ven had rigged the weapon to backfire, and thus the savage nature of the Solandians was ultimately responsible for the calamity.
Part of me felt like I should just put the controller down and stop playing it.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Everything I've done is for nothing. But it was only a smallish part of me that felt that. But I obviously kept on playing because, I had this show to do. And for such a small game, it takes you through so many different emotions.
Yeah, it does. It really hits a wealth of emotion. So after that, he has a new task. And that task is to retrieve shards to heal the Bastion now. So it's basically the same thing that you're doing, but, you need shards for that monument to heal the Bastion. And after retrieving a good number of them, you find out that the final one lays deep within the Ura territory itself. Rux told the kid that the Bastion contained the ability to fix the current state of affairs, so he has no choice but to make the trip. Imagine the kid arriving to find Zolf being attacked by his own people. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I was really quite, well, I don't know. I mean, I was partly surprised, but then there was part of me that kind of expected that because, you know, he'd led us there, and I knew there was going to be some kind of twist again because it's, you know, by that time you played enough of it to kind of get an idea of that nothing's what it kind of seems to be.
Yeah.
So I was surprised, and it did affect me enough to make the decision I made when it came to that part of the game.
Yeah, and you know that's the reason why they were attacking him was because that Zolf led the kid right to him. So at that point, you had the choice to either. I think there was a battering ram.
Yeah.
Correct? You picked up a battering ram as a secondary weapon.
Which, no, it was just that was the weapon.
That was the weapon, yeah.
Yeah. You had 3 attacks with it, including
the special.
The special, yeah. And it just made you so slow, though.
Yeah, but it was really powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, remember Resident Evil? It's really powerful, especially against living things. So then you have the choice to either continue carrying the battering ram or to pick up the crumpled sort of wreckage that is Zolf and carry him away and carry him back to the Bastion.
I set my sail, fly, the wind it will take me back to my home, sweet home. Lie on my back, clouds are making way for me. I'm coming home, sweet home. I see your star, you left it burning for me. Mother, I'm here.
So your choice was?
I took Zolf.
Yeah, I did the same thing. And this, to me, was where I was almost in tears.
It's really moving, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was half expecting the music from Deer Hunter to come up or something. You know, it was really powerful bit of gaming. Going through all that fire attacking you, and all these people shooting at you, and then suddenly they stop, and you go around a corner, and then someone else attacks you, but then they kill him for attacking you because everyone's just watching you in amazement whilst you carry this broken figure of a man back. Oh, it was fantastic.
And Darren Korb's lyrics and arrangement at that point was really what sold it for me.
It all came together. It was just this tsunami of emotions just hits you.
Yeah, it was amazing to me. So after that, the kid places the Uran shard in the monument upon returning to the Bastion, completely repairing it. Rux then shows him the mechanism in the underbelly of the Bastion. And the funny thing is, the whole time that the kid is sort of in the Ura territory trying to track down Zolf and that shard, the narrator, Rux, he's not talking to you anymore. He's sort of talking to Zia.
Yeah, it turns out the whole kind of narrative's actually been him talking to Zia rather than to you.
Yeah.
As the player. And he's recounting the story. And the whole story is basically them killing time before you get back to do this final action.
Yeah. At that point, Zia finally has her first spoken lines of dialogue. Mm. And she explains the ultimate option of either rewinding time to an era before the calamity happens or to initiate the Bastion's emergency protocol. So what did you do?
Well, I went for the emergency protocol, and we went off. When we didn't restart time, we went off to discover whatever there is out there to discover, which you don't find out, unfortunately.
No. See, I did just the opposite. I rewound time, but the thing is about that, there's no guarantee that it's not going to happen again.
Exactly.
But
whereas if you continue and say, right, okay, we're just going to escape, start anew with the 4 of us, 3 of us.
Yeah.
I was counting myself in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not really a great gene pool to be taken from there, but might be other survivors. You can guarantee there's not going to be another calamity.
I set myself, fly the wind, it will take me back to my home, sweet home. Lie on my back, climb to make a way for me. I'm coming home, sweet home. I see your star, you left it thrown for me. Brother, I'm here too
to kind of wrap this up, there's something that's been bugging me, and I know that this is sort of the prevailing internet theory that Rux is actually the kid.
Yeah.
But from a different timeline.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, same hair.
He sort of looks a lot like him, but with a mustache.
Yeah, it's like an old kid.
And I guess there is a part where he talks about being one of the masons that sort of built.
Yeah, well, he designed the Bastion, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was a Solandian mason. And at the same time, when the kid wakes up, he starts his adventure. The narrator, who obviously is Rux, explains that, you know, the kid picks up his old friend, which was the sail hammer.
Yeah.
And that hammer was supposedly a tool of the Solandian masons.
Well, the other thing is, how the hell did he know what the hell the kid was doing all the time?
Yeah. Except till the end, where the timeline had sort of changed.
There's some kind of diversion thing, and it could go either way. You know, it's like some episode of Star Trek or something. They've got wormholes.
But I mean, overall, what an incredible game. And like I said, it hit every note and every emotion in me as I played that. Because I didn't do any of the sort of, weapon upgrade maps or anything like that.
Oh, I did a few of them. They were fun. Unnecessary, but...
Yeah, I was so engrossed in the story.
Did you play it on normal difficulty, or...?
Yeah.
See, at one point I found that, probably because of the control system I was using, that I actually needed to level up my weapons.
Yeah.
For taking on the next bit. But that's probably because of the inaccuracy of having 4 keys to map your movement as opposed to an analog stick.
Oh, God, I can't imagine that.
But
All right, man. Well, I think that's enough spoilage of the old Bastion. So let's clean this thing up and get out of here. And before we do that, I do want to say, obviously, thank you to Murphy's Law and thank you to Xcalybr. So you can check them out on the Twitters at OC_Murphy's Law and Xcalybr 713. So with them out of the way, Dan, how about Web for the week to come and shout-outs for you?
Web for the week to come. You can find me. I'm going to be on the Iron Hammers show on Sunday at 10 p.m. GMT. That's about 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Eastern
time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say we're going to be doing that. It depends if Bobby can walk through the snow because he didn't want to walk a mile in snow last weekend. Failing that, you can find me as Hardlydan on pretty much anything apart from Skype or Facebook because I need to have a little bit of privacy. What about you, Steve? Where can we get hold of you?
Oh, mine is the typical JSSLIFELIKE pretty much everywhere. That's PSN, that's Xbox Live, that's Twitter, that's Steam, that's Skype, that's Xfire, that's, whatever.
It's everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And I got one simple shout out this week, and it is all of the great sites and shows that are affiliated with VGHub.net, and including one of the great forums out there, Gaming for the Elderly, obviously. So we get a lot of great responses from Gaming for the Elderly too, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So iTunes reviews, we like them, we love them. We might even check them sometime. I don't know, but if you feel so inclined to leave one, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, shoot us a little message and let us know. Actually, they can do that how, Dan?
Well, if you want to drop us an email, you can do so with the address thegamesmanrpg@gmail.com. And if email isn't your bag, you can always drop us a line on Twitter, and our account is @thegamesmanrpg.
Yes, thank you very much. And also, we want more voicemails on the new voicemail line. So call the RPG hotline like Mr. Christopher Matthew did at 412-267-RPG1. And also, you can listen to the shows now on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thegamesmenrpg.
Hot dog.
Yeah. Couldn't believe I could actually upload an hour and 31-minute video on it. But, yeah, it's kind of cool. So... all right, Dan. Well, let's get out of here. So thank you very much, sir. And on behalf of Mr. Murphy's Law, on behalf of Xcalybr, on behalf of Hardlydan, I am Lyfeliek. We are the Gamesmen. And until next time, we ask,
what role will you play?
Ready, Haas.
All right. Try it.
Are we going to cover, by the way, what the fuck a mogul is?
Jesus. Greg seems to think a Moogle looks like Chim Chim from fucking Speed Racer.
It doesn't look like it, but it certainly does the same thing. It serves no real purpose.
Reminds him of Chim Chim. Oh, God.
What was that fucking dog thing from He-Man?
See?
Like Snarf?
Oh, that was from Thundercats.
That was Thundercats.
Yeah, that was Snarf.
That was Snarf.
Oh, that was Snarf. He was much more into it.
I thought you were going to start talking about Battle Cat. Or Cringer.
It's actually really fun. It's a hell of a resource hog, so you need a fairly decent machine to run it. But apart from...
Uh-oh. Hold on.
Sorry about that. Apparently my wife is trying to hang something on the other side of the wall. I just started hearing this bang and I'm like, oh.
That's your noose that's going up.
Exactly. Let me mute.
Starbreeze Studio made the first one. I can't remember who makes this one, but I'd say compared to the first one, it's... I can't even speak. Hold on.
Getting all choked up.
I know, I'm telling you.
I love this game.
It's sick. All right.
Not fully satisfied with the podcast, please return any portions for a full refund.
Well, I know what potatoes is, but I ain't never heard of a fucking potato.